Friends, I'm going to ask you to review with me just two verses in our wonderful reading here to the letter to these Hebrew Christians. Chapter 12, towards the very last, next to last paragraph. In the middle of that first verse, it says, "Let us run with endurance the race." So the author is playing with a very familiar image. People will tell you that life is like a journey. For a lot of people, that journey means, scrambling to keep up with the Joneses. It's about greed and pride, and it feels like chasing after the tail. For other people, it's a race that is driven by guilt and by fear. The wicked race master runs a maze for some, and they wonder if there will ever be an end. This is not what the author is talking about with us, I don't think, is it? Pete, is there a way you can move that to the left a little bit? You're just like blocking people behind you there so they can't see.
Oh, I can move it out in the street if you want.
Well, I want you to catch it for anybody on the video, but I'm really first preaching to the people that are here. So you got it right there, it's perfect. But you got to move yourself over another foot, too. And then you probably won't be able to get the picture, I know.
Will there be anything else?
Thank you. Nope. I will try to stop hassling you there.
Okay.
So what kind of race are we running? He tells us, in fact, he says, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Set before us by who? Who decides what your race is going to look like? You think you do? I can't control my future. Who controls what your race is going to be like? It's, of course, the Lord. So already we've got some great good news in this text. The path of our life is set, not by the enemy, not by us, but by the Lord who loves us. Don't you think that he knows the evils that will come against us? Can't he foresee that? And doesn't he know how to turn those to be a blessing for us? Don't you think that the Lord, setting our path, knows where and when we're going to need a break? And he prepares for us that special joy just down the road. Refreshment of the heart at the right time. Life is like a journey. All over the place. You can find that in secular wisdom too, but for us to know the journey is set by God, what a joy. Now, I myself have never run a marathon, so I have a little bit of trouble understanding this. However, lots of you know that on Tuesday I came back from the most physically exhausting thing I've ever done in my life. A 12-day trek with the Boy Scouts, hiking up and down the mountains of northern New Mexico at Philmont Scout Ranch. It was so much fun, even though it was putting on at minimum 55 pounds in my backpack, and depending on how much food and water you had to carry, sometimes it was 3 or 4 days before you got to the next stop where you get resupplied, sometimes 70 pounds, 75 miles. The picture I'm showing you here, and up on the screen there, you don't have to see it, it helps me remember what I'm talking about, was the first time we saw in the distance, I have an arrow there, Mount Baldy. So we're at about 7,000 feet, and this mountain is 12,441 at the peak. It's about 20 miles away and a mile taller than we are. So we see this mountain, and they tell us, so in about 2 days, you'll be at the foot of the mountain, and on the third day, you'll be on the peak before lunch. What? I got 70 pounds on my back, Jack. So, who can do it? Run with endurance the race set before you. Can I do it? So I'm standing there and I'm thinking, you know what? Thousands of boys have done this before me. And here I am with this little troop, and all these guys are excited to get this done. Let's see. Can you do it? More good news. When you're hiking through life, you're not alone. God gives countless examples of those who have done it. He gives you faithful friends to walk at your side. So Gail read this long text, and it was only half of Hebrews 11. It's called the Great Chapter of Faith. And it talks about the great ones of the Old Testament. You can go way back to Adam. We think of him as the first sinner, but he's also the first to run the race with endurance. He believes that God has forgiveness for him. And he perseveres all the way to the finish line. And so Gail read about the great patriarchs, Abraham and Isaac, and grandson Jacob, Israel. She read about, how Moses' parents hid him and they believed that God would protect the baby. How Moses grew up and he didn't want to be the Pharaoh of Egypt. He wanted to be one of God's people. How he led them through the Red Sea. He hung on in faith. He scorned the treasures of Egypt because he believed that God had something better for him down the road. He endured the race. All these great stories. The last one she mentioned there was Rahab. We forget her story. This woman's not even a Jew. She's in Jericho, but she does not believe in Jericho's idols. And so when the spies from the Israelites come, Rahab welcomes them in, and she protects them so that they can do their march and bring the walls down. And so it happens that Rahab, the streetwalker, now becomes one who's running the race with the faithful of God. All these surprising, amazing people. That's just the Old Testament story. What if we would add all the great ones of the New Testament? 2,000 years of Christian history now. There are many examples of people who ran the race with great faith. They clung to Jesus, believing that there was a better day coming. You've known them in your life. I mean, who taught you the faith? Grandparents and parents for most of us. And also church family and friends who walk with us in the faith today. We are, my second picture, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. So here's these boys. We're hiking along the trail, and you can see in the distance these few wisps of cloud, They look as distant as those mountains that we're supposed to reach sometime. This writer to the Hebrews talks about the great cloud. And the word he uses there, it's not like one of these distant, wispy clouds. He's talking about that great, seamless cloud that just fills the sky. It like covers the whole atmosphere. This great cloud that surrounds us, he says. Imagine rushing along in this fog. Have you ever been in a crowd like that where you feel like, there's everybody's pressing together and they're going to one place? You feel like you can pick up your feet and the crowd will carry you to the destination? That's about what he's describing here. This great cloud. He says, since we are surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses, all these others going with us, this great cloud of witnesses, what did they witness? What did they see? What's he talking about? Witnesses to what? All those heroes of the faith in Hebrews 11, the Old Testament, all this New Testament, the heroes in our lives, one taught us the faith. They're witnesses to what? The witnesses to, I'm better than you are. I don't know if you're going to make it. I don't think so. What's their witness? I'm a broken person too. If you listen to the great ones before us, what they'll tell you is, I didn't think I was going to make it. I could not have made it on my own. But Jesus was with us. Jesus came into us. He picked us up. We got it done, not by our own strength, but by trusting in him. When I saw Jesus, I knew I couldn't believe in myself. But he showed me what he had done. And I could go forward, step at a time, till I got to where he wants me to be. Surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses, we are not alone. We run with endurance the race set before us. There's always obstacles on the race. So we were 12 days out on the trek, and aren't those some ominous-looking clouds there? So in New Mexico, would you believe they have a season they call monsoon? That's right, when we were there. 9 days out of 12, it rained for 4 or more hours. Can you imagine putting up your tent in the mud, Or you try to sit down for lunch, and all of a sudden it just comes down like a downpour. So, I mean, we're hiking along, and then it just changes that quick, and all of a sudden there's hail. Some of the kids thought it was granite on the ground. It was so much, all these little pebbles, and they looked up and said, no, they're banging on us, So it's really funny. You can't do anything about the atmosphere of your life. I mean, there's just events out there we can't change, right? What we can do is keep on moving forward, trusting that the good Lord knows what's coming. sometimes not just the atmosphere, sometimes it's the terrain. So here's when we're finally starting to go up Mount Baldy. If you can see it real close, there's an old guy up the trail there. He looks like he's waving high. That's actually me. I think I'm screaming help. But that's okay, you know. We call for help. Give me a break, Lord. And I'm still not over this mountain, you know. Points that trail's going up 45 degrees. But you're getting somewhere. Step by step, you're going forward. What we need to do, we can't always control the terrain, we can't always control the atmosphere, but we should be able to have some control over ourselves. So here's the next picture. This one cracked me up. This is the day before we hit the trail. So this is not only a bacon cheeseburger. Can you see what it's served on? 2 glazed donuts. Is this what you want to eat before you put on a 70-pound pack and walk 10 miles? So, our author to the Hebrews says, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which clings so closely. What slows you down in your Christian life? I mean, sometimes it's the rainstorms, sometimes it's the steep terrain, but sometimes if it's you, good news. You can do something about that. If you got this heap of guilt on your back, you can give that away. Right? Jesus has nail-pierced hands. He's happy to have it. If you've got this greed in your heart that you're carrying all this extra garbage, this kid always had a big bag of candy in his backpack. It's like, why are you carrying that, Mark? You know, you don't need that stuff. You need something healthy. You can let go of that stuff. Good news, you can lay aside every weight. So if you can see this next picture again, it's just reminding me here. For those that can see the big screen, what's wrong with this picture? See the kid on the far left? What's wrong with him? He has no backpack. Now look at the scoutmaster. What's wrong with him? He's got 2 backpacks. He's got one on his back and he's got one on his front. Why? The kid with the candy couldn't carry it finally. Everybody took about 10 pounds from this kid. And finally, the scoutmaster had to put on about 15 pounds with his own 70 pounds on the back. And I said, I'll take the picture. So, come on. I mean, I suppose maybe that's what's right with this picture. Sometimes, even when somebody in their own foolishness has been hurt, don't we get to help them? Yeah. Isn't that a joy? You know? So we had a laugh later with the kid. We get to do this for one another. Why would we want to? Because we know this Lord. Here's good news. For the burdens that we can't carry, he got it done. He picked up the cross. Amazing. He has carried us on his back. And now he sets us free so that we can hike together. So again, just listen to this text. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, all these going forward with us, let us also lay aside every weight. You don't want an extra ounce in your backpack, believe me. The sin which so closely entangles. You want your hiking boots tied tight, but you don't want to tie them to each other, right? Let go of that foolishness. Let go of the sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race set before us. Where? Beautiful part of the text. Looking to Jesus. Looking to Jesus. So Yogi Berra once said, you know, the old coach, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up someplace else. Where are we going? If you say to kids on the playground, let's race, they all start running, and then they say, but where are we going? You know? Where are we going in our lives? It should be so clear for us who follow Jesus. Look to Jesus. So I stood on this rock and I was kind of teasing, pointing up. Honestly, can I look to Jesus and be like him? Can I really do what he has done? I think I've got a better chance of starting to march on the air there and get to a cloud than make myself as humble and as generous and as giving, as loving as was our Lord. When some people hear this text about, looking to Jesus, they think it's a joke. It's impossible. And honestly, if that's all that Jesus is an example for us, this is how you should live, I don't know about you, but I'm doomed. I'm damned. I can't do it on my own. I can't be like him, though that's exactly what God demands. Here's the amazing good news. That's not what this text is talking about. Listen to how he says it in chapter 12, verse 2 here. He says, look to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith. It's all about the faith. It's not about what you do. It's about believing in what he did. Jesus, the founder, the giver of our faith. I don't believe in myself. I can't even wake up on the trail without an alarm clock, much less get it done. But here is a rock-solid foundation, what Jesus has done for us. Look to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith. I got my own despair. I got my own doubts. But I've got this Jesus who says, it's my blood that makes you perfect. It's my race that guarantees you shall have the finish. Look to Jesus, our faith perfected. Down in the valley, life does not make a lot of sense. You can look up and aspire to get there. Sometimes that's all you can do is you can look up to Jesus and say, I want to get there. But it doesn't always make sense, honestly, when you're down below. What I can tell you is when you get to the peak, and if you're able to bring your son with you, what a thrill! It's a mountaintop high to be able to look back and see what you've done. Because he did it in you. To look back at our lives and see how God has been alive in us. What a thrill it will be. How do you get to the top of the mountain? Faith. And what does faith enable you to do?
Get through the mountain.
One step at a time. That's all it is. You don't get to the top like that. All you can do is take another step. That's our Christian living. A step at a time. But knowing, believing that we will get to the pinnacle that Jesus wants us to reach. Look to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. Who but Jesus could look at a cross and say, yay, this is my joy. I get to rescue the world. I'm the only one that can take away all their sin. I'm the only one that can give them the new resurrection life. Hooray, my joy to share it. Look to him who despised the shame. I mean, still today people think he's crazy. What kind of God would hang on a cross? Mine. Despising the shame is now seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Look to him in triumph and go one more day. So, back at camp here, my last picture. Look to Jesus. Look at the cross. This picture has said so much to me. There's the cross. We remember that Jesus is not there anymore. He won the victory. He's alive. There's the preacher proclaiming the good word so we can hear it. Here's the crowd. These scouts from all over the country, really from all over the world, kids come. All gathered to hear the good news of Jesus and how he's going to go on the race with us. It was amazing that as he's preaching, the storm clouds blew away. Can you see in the right-hand corner there? The promises come true. There's the rainbow. One more little thing to show you is the guy's preaching. I don't know if you can see it. Well, you really can't see it. Right there. He's preaching, and here comes this deer nibbling his way closer and closer to the preacher. And this deer hears the preacher, and he looks at him, and he sits down, as if to hear the rest of the sermon. It was just wild. It was like, wow. It's like, the lion will lay down with the lamb, And here's the deer with the Baptists, so go figure. What a picture. What a promise. Again, I got to thank you for vacation time and an opportunity to be with these boys. But I really thank you for the opportunity again tonight to share with you some encouragement. Run the race with endurance. Look to Jesus. He's already got victory in his hand for you. We do thank you, Lord.